Remember, please hit like and subscribe for me. Thank you so much. Okay, let's go.
Hi, everyone. Today is September the 24th, and this is the Moneyball Morning Report for the Benzinga Pro platform. Let's take a look at the E-mini S&P and see what we're staring down. We have the last 30 minutes of the day gave us a big volume pop. We've been seeing this in the ES lot. They've been flattening positions into the end of the day. Traders have been. And come on, Sally. And so we are outside of this last 30-minute range, and we are also above the high of the opening range candlestick. Where we're battling right now is a very noisy patch. Here is yesterday's closing VWAP. That's 6,723. Remember, yesterday the breakaway was at this 6744 level. That's going to be the zone to watch. We are still in buy the dip mode, but notice how deep the dip was. So when we come into a space and we go, ooh, this is a buy the dip, you can try to buy the dip, but notice, like I mentioned in our study hall yesterday, I have no idea why I just called it study hall. Good grief. We saw all this inventory accumulation that began to distribute and liquidate at a discount. And so now all the volume from yesterday is something that buyers want to retrace. For the first time in a couple of days, we really sit inside of the call wall and inside of the put wall, meaning traders that are short the calls and short the puts are just sitting around collecting cash for what might happen today. So that being said, what are we looking at? Well, what we notice is interesting. We've moved 3 and 4 a.m. into this very interesting spot. So notice the close of the last 30-minute candle of the day gives us this range at 6,715. My thought is if we lose that line, we're going to have more selling. Take us to the next place of inventory accumulation. That's going to put us down here at the 66.85. As long as we hold 67.15, we're in pretty good shape. Upward pressure events are going to run through this big volume pocket of all the traders moving between that 67.15, 67.20, all the way to 67.44, 67.40, right? Value area high, 6,740. So what are we looking at here? Inventory accumulation, right? The low end of the range is the open of the 4 a.m. candle. And the high end of the range is, I think it's this 230 candle, which is up here. So could we try a breakaway event could we try a breakaway event above 67.28? Yes, we could. We would know that that would be walking us up into the call wall and potentially over it before they try to force it back down. Now, take a look at Sidekick. What I did with Sidekick is take a look at the analysis. And so here are the important zones. Support ledge deep below is still this 6701, 6705. We've got a consolidation event. That's what we just broke through, this 6715 to 6720. We had a fair bit of selling at 6731. So we'll notice over here, we have 6728. The volume peak for the rejection zone is 6731. So what we would see, if the price action was going to hold to the north, it would bounce up 6731, take out 6731, pull back, and hold this congestion zone that sort of leveled off around 6728. Okay, now for the monitoring at the key levels, we've got more volume sitting here. Volume sort of dies down but begins to pick up at about the 8 o'clock hour, which we are rolling ourselves into. Notice it's telling us that we've got a bearish break below 67.20, but up here we have this 67.15 area that's a consolidation floor. So we have to parse through this data carefully without going, hey, I'm going short at XYZ. Remember, the overall trend line is still up, right? And so we want to be very careful shorting these edges until they confirm that short, and I don't think that actually occurs until below the 6715. So upper edges, 6731, 6735, 6744. Downward formation, we've got this 6709. Look at the volume. Big volume event at 6708. Remember yesterday we had between 6705 and 6707 as the support floor. And then we've got value area low at 6694, which also sort of puts us back in this consolidation area. Okay, so little bit of a mixed bag. What is trend? It's mixed. We're underneath the 63, the 200 is flat. We're slightly above a flat VWAP. That tells me I have room to dip before I consider the buy. I would like to look at 6,709. My thought. Anyways. All right, let's go to the NQ. Okay, very noisy. Let's see what we did yesterday. The line break, 24,969. That's also value area high for the last 4 trading days or so. And so the call wall, 25,000 above. The put support for the 0 DTEs is much higher than the put support for the monthly contracts at this juncture. So what are we staring down? It's got a little bit more slope than the ES for sure. The 4 a.m. candlestick, no, that's a 3:30 candlestick. We're getting a lot of motion off of these candles, just shy of what we had been noticing at 4 a.m. So somebody is trying to front run something, but the dips, notice, the dips are still buys. We are underneath this trend line. So the goal is to recover that trend line event, and that number, 24,917 is the upside. We can see all the volume and accumulation in this pocket in the early part of the day. The last 30-minute formation, interestingly, the close of that line, 24,831, and the body of this 30-minute candlestick really does hold the floor for what we are staring down, right? And so that floor event is 24,800. That's where I think the traders probably will hold. Notice how, there's a huge volume pocket here. And so what are they doing? They're in accumulation mode, right? Accumulation, just like they were in this very messy patch outside of this area. This is the real area of accumulation, this 30-minute candlestick formation. And they're holding it all night. They break out, and now let's just do Fibonacci here, just for giggles, and see what we get. Right up at the top at the 2.5. Not surprising. Are we ever surprised by these measurements? No, we're not. So, holding the ledge, as I mentioned, I believe the floor of support is deep below us, but if we hold this range of pre-market accumulation, where we have the high of that opening candlestick, we've got ourselves a place that we could potentially trade long, 24,850. It's also the VWAP. So pretty solid sign that we've got something that could hold as a pretty good zone in terms of buying that dip. We do have price compression, and we're bouncing between 2 moving averages with just a little bit of momentum. All right. Overall, price action is still by the dip. here's the next area of accumulation that the traders are going to have trouble with, or they're going to try and recover. And so that occurs in the early part of the day. The top edge of that, 24,926. It certainly can go into the middle of it at 24,950. Okay? All right. If we lose 24,863, we're going to fall right back into this area of potential accumulation. Potential prior accumulation. It's prior accumulation, but it is the potential for us to bounce. And that number is really very close to our 24,830, 24,840. If, per happenstance, we slip and lose the VWAP, the point of control, which is 24,820, expect them to battle there. But if we have a failed retest on the line downward, we're going to slip down into these lower patches, into these prior areas of accumulation. That's going to be about 24,760. Okay, let's go to gold. What's gold doing? Well, interestingly, here's what Sidekick had to say. So I just absolutely love this thing. It's so incredible. So here we are. It tells us that we have a major resistance that occurred at $3,822. We have a secondary cluster event that was also rejected, 38.17, 38.20, because right now we sit at, 38.02? Something like that, right? Hang on. Let me double check. Yeah, 38.02. And so what we really want to see is, can we recover all of these areas that we broke down? So what we're headed to is a support zone. Critical support, 3,790 to 3,795. We're on approach. The VWAP is 3,799. So we're going to see a little bit of a fight there. All right? We've got to watch the volume to see if it can recover higher. Else, we're going to drip down into these support levels. Price action ought to take a breather, but you never know, right? You just never know. So, early morning analysis. There's a threshold that we need to stare down. And so here is what the bullish pressure needs to look like above 38.10. Now, you can pick up the long at the deeper support, 37.90, 37.95. Remember, these are breakdown zones, but they can also recover. What we do have is a failure to hold the pressure of the bullish breakout. And so now we're looking at the lower levels to potentially bounce, or these higher levels to get retested and failed. And that's what we are staring down, right? The volume trigger point, looking for 37.90 or so. The bullish breakout spaces, this is telling us we're in consolidation, right? We don't have any of these boxes checked off yet for either bullish or bearish breakdown. And so what it's telling us is to watch for the volume window to have a reliable breakdown signal, and to watch the volume coming in at these price action events tells me that we are essentially sideways. Okay? So that's what we've got. Just thought I'd share Sidekick with you because it is so incredible. I can't wait for it to go live. I thought it was live, but apparently we might still be in beta. I don't know. All right, so in between the call wall, 3,825. In between the put wall, 3,760. And we really are in a great big volume pocket right here. So low edge, 37.82. Remember, Sidekick suggested 37.90 for the breakdown in terms of motion, but it's got to be a confirmed breakdown. So to break below, break above, and then break below again. All right? If that doesn't happen, this chart is going to hold this range. And I suspect it might hold that range. I do. Value area low, we're sitting right in between value area low and value area high. Value area low, 3,730. Value area high, just underneath the call wall at 3,750. 37.19. And of course, we know from Sidekick 37.20 is something to watch. Let's finally go to SPY. What's SPY doing? Consolidating like everybody else. Notice pre-market gap got filled, right? They came right down into the edge and held it. What's the floor? It's the same as yesterday, $663.38. You might go, Anne-Marie, that fell right through that floor. Yes, look at where it fell, into the last region of inventory accumulation. So you might say, if I see that floor, what do I expect? That's all relative to trend. If trend is down, you expect it to hit the bottom of the box. If trend is up, you expect the traders to come in and defend the zone. And interestingly, that's a high volume area for the gamma charts, right? For the gamma lines. And it held that zone fairly well, bouncing off of the floor. What do we have to look at today? High. Value area high, $666.50. Value area low, $661. What do I want to see? I want to see this chart take a breather. Will it? I have no idea. But at this juncture, because I'm caught between two moving averages, it is best that I wait for the dips to buy, and that number is 662 or so, and wait for the spikes to fail their zones of old support so that it becomes resistance. That number, $665.93. What kind of day are we going to have today? Who knows? We've got new home sales, we've got the petroleum report, and then whatever else these auctioning Fed speakers. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're doing auditions for, their next gig. So I wish they weren't allowed to speak. I really do. I wish they were just out doing their thing and just sent us data and didn't do that. But I mean, everybody's got to do their own thing. Everybody's thinking about their livelihood, XYZ. I'm just thinking about, what's best for the market. But that being said, that's all I've got. Good luck trading today. Dips remain buy zones. Yesterday I said dips were buy zones. And the dip for the buy did not come until it fell into a prior area of inventory accumulation. Now, your keen eye might go, well, Anne-Marie, this is an area of inventory accumulation as well. Yes, it sure is. And guess what? What was the trend? The trend of the VWAP was down. What does that mean? We're very likely to break into these areas of inventory accumulation if trend is down intraday. The big trend, remember, these are huge moving averages, a 200 and a 63. We're not looking at 10 and 14 or 8 and whatever. We're looking at big moving averages. And so this intraday formation on the tight spaces, trend is down. They're going to break these consolidation areas trying to find a floor. Okay, so good luck today, folks. And I'll see you on the streams. Well, you know how Wednesday is. I'm not around because I'm working on projects, but I will pop in and say hello. So take care, everybody. Good luck trading.